lines where your company is killing our people. Where Equinor, that here has a very nice face, it puts up a really nice face to you. It claims to be sustainable, and it brings you coffee. It treats the activists. I think he's trying to fix the sound. All right. You know, here you do activism in Norway, and Equinor is going out of its way to avoid arresting you. Today we tried to do some disruptive actions, and very few people did get arrested. But usually the case is that they bring you coffee, they bring you nice clothes, they try to go out of their way to avoid any media scandal, any PR impact. And the reason is that they have a lot to hide. The reason is that while they are here claiming to be climate champions and people that are sustainable, they are doing all over the world, especially in my country, in Vaca Muerta, especially to the people of the Mapuche community, the indigenous people of Argentina, whose land coincides with the Vaca Muerta area. They're fracking us. They are doing a climate crime that they cannot do at home, that much of Europe has banned here. They're doing it to us. And Equinor is not alone in this. Wintershall from Germany, Shell from the Netherlands, BP from England, Total from France, Repsol from Spain, and many others are doing abroad something so criminal like fracking, which they don't allow at home anymore. And this is not only a problem because they're killing us. In areas where the fracking towers are in place in Vaca Muerta, children are dying of leukemia at a rate that is 3 times higher than the national average, so that this oil and gas and profits can come back to fund your comfortable way of life and your government in Norway. This has to stop, not only because it's inhumane, not only because it's colonialism going on in the 21st century, but for your own survival. I would like to ask to the Norwegian people, beyond the activists that are here, that I know already totally agree with us, to the Norwegian people, through the media that are coming, that at least mobilize if you have any survival instinct, not just out of solidarity. If you care to survive and for your children's future, you cannot allow Equinor to continue destroying the planet. Fracking has been shown by science to be responsible for more than 50%, half, of all of the increased methane emissions globally coming from fossil fuels over the last decade, or more than 1/3 of the increase when you consider all sources, including biological. So what kind of Paris Agreement is Norway championing? What kind of Paris Agreement are the European governments championing and claiming to be leaders in the ecological transition when their companies are doing the exact opposite? There is no Paris Agreement. There is no future when Equinor continues to frack Vaca Muerta and elsewhere around the world. To give you an example, Vaca Muerta is the world's 2nd largest shale gas basin and 4th largest shale oil basin. It's huge. It's about the size of Belgium. And you know the carbon footprint of Vaca Muerta will consume nearly 15% of the entire global carbon budget. Does that sound like Equinor is doing sustainable business to you? No! Can they buy this off with one coffee or little clothes that they bring you when you do activism here? No! Are we gonna fight for this? Yes! Thank you. I hope that this is not the end, but the beginning. And I know we are planting very important seeds with these actions, also with the action that you did at the end of July, when we in Germany, in Ende Gelände, and all over the world with Shale Must Fall, we were mobilizing, coming together, connecting the dots of these climate criminals, of the supply chains between the extraction site in Vaca Muerta, in Colombia, in the Americas, and the consuming end in Europe, where not only are the multinational companies headquartered, but also the gas, the products of this destruction are coming here for you to consume cheap gas. So Germany and many countries of Europe are building LNG import terminals. with billions of euros of public funding to subsidize and consume the product of the extraction that these criminals do on the other side of the world using techniques that you have banned at home. And guess what? They're selling you this as the future. They're selling you as saying that gas will allow a transition away from coal. Well, guess what? Gas has similar emissions to coal, and when the gas comes from fracking, it's actually 40 to 60% higher carbon footprint than coal itself. And they present that as the clean fuel, when it's actually the worst fossil fuel of all. So clean gas is a dirty lie. Equinor must fall, Shell must fall, BP must fall. And you know what? I am very hopeful to be here today because Equinor may be the Achilles tendon of the fracking industry, and it may be the Achilles tendon that will allow us to bring down all of Vaca Muerta. Let me explain why. Vaca Muerta would not be possible without the multinationals from Europe that are making the investors believe that Vaca Muerta and fracking have a future. And out of all these multinationals, there is only one that is owned by the state, Equinor. Shell, BP, Total, they respond to private investors. Private investors care even less about the climate consequences and everything else. But here, and that's the reason Equinor is so afraid of you, because if we put enough political pressure on Equinor and the Norwegian state, it's only a matter of one political decision by the government of Norway to get Equinor out of Vaca Muerta. And they respond to political pressure on the streets. So if we are here now about 100 people, we need to be 2,000 next time. We need to block not only this building, which is mostly a symbol, but also block them on the waters. Your first action that you did, and you blocked this tanker last week, it was international news that Norway actually had to halt the exports of oil because you had one sailboat blocking a tanker. That's high efficiency. So you know, I don't want to go forever, but the oceans are rising. It's also time for us to take to the waters. We should block the strategic points of export of oil, and there are not many. As I understand, there's about 5 or 2 that are really important, and just a couple of sailboats could do the job. Just some kayaks could do the job. We just did an action in Ende Gelände a few weeks ago with kayaks, a few kayaks, 20 kayaks. We blocked the busiest canal in the world, which goes from Brunsbüttel to Kiel, for about 3 hours, and the police went crazy. They didn't know how to deal with us. And that was just 20 people. Imagine 2,000 with life vests blocking that for a long time. We could cause a major disruption of the global trade industry and the global fracking and fossil fuel industry. So, you know, let's take to the water, let's be multi-pronged, and don't give up, because what you have here is possibly the most important target to bring down fracking worldwide. If we can bring fracking down in Vaca Muerta, it can be the stepping stone to end it everywhere. And I am convinced that Equinor is the first one that we need and we can bring down. So let's put all the energy on this, and thank you for being here. And please don't forget, because it's not going to stop in one action. This is a long-term fight. And lastly, I want to say, Jenny now from XR Youth, she translated a letter from today, the people in Vaca Muerta, the Mapuche communities, the local affected communities. They wrote a letter to the ambassador of Norway in Argentina, demanding an explanation and demanding the immediate end of Equinor's fracking operations in Vaca Muerta, and demanding a hearing. It's very likely the ambassador will not respond. They don't have anything to explain this. But we need you to put pressure after this. So she's going to read the letter, translated into Norwegian. This being presented today, but don't let that die down. We need to put pressure here so that the ambassador there will open up for a hearing with the affected communities. That will be the first step until we can start in conversations and pressure, so they actually will see, well, this is costing us too much, politically too costly for the Norwegian government. Let's get Equinor out. And as soon as Equinor is out, we can say to Shell and BP and Total, say, look at Norway. They're actually now leading by example. You also have no future here. You also need to go. So I think that could be the way we can look at it strategically and actually win this fight. and get for the climate movement globally as a victory of international solidarity, get one of the most important victories for the climate that we have to make ahead, and upon that, make greater victories against the fossil fuel industry. Thank you very much.